So I'm here to talk to you this morning about why social work should stop serving fathers. For those of you who know me, know my work, you might be a little surprised that I'm talking to you at 8 in the morning to convince you that the last 15 years of my social work practice and research are something I'm trying to talk us out of doing as a field. So you might ask yourself, why would I suggest that social work stop working with fathers? And you might think it's because fathers, especially low-income, young fathers of color, are missing from families. There's a strong narrative across the fatherhood research that these men are absent. And there have been many calls over the years for researchers to address father absence in low-income families. But I would tell you no. Actually, in my research, especially research with families involved in child welfare, I find that close to 90% of families in that system, which is arguably one of the most vulnerable populations that we serve in social work, have an involved father. And I'm not limiting my definition of fathers here to any particular biological, residential, or legal relationship. I'm really talking about the men who play a caregiving role in their families. And generally speaking, these men are not missing from these families. So then you might ask, well, am I suggesting we stop serving fathers because it's really the moms who are important? It's really the moms who are doing the lion's share of caregiving in families? And I would say, no, actually that's not the reason either. And in fact, women do the heavy lifting in families in the US today. But national studies are suggesting that men are increasingly taking a direct caregiving role in their families, and that single father-headed families are one of the fastest growing demographics in the US today. And I would also point out to you that there is a growing mountain of research that points to the unique and the significant contribution of young low-income fathers to their families. So positively involved fathers have children who are less likely to have behavioral problems. Their kids do better in school. They're less likely to be involved in the juvenile justice system. When fathers are positively involved, their children are less likely to go into foster care when they're involved in the child welfare system. And positively involved fathers also support moms in doing things like breastfeeding and engaging in their own health care and well-being. So no, it's not because I think moms are more important or the parent that we should be working with. So then you might think, well, is it because dads are dangerous? These low-income guys are bringing risks to the table more often. And I would say, yes, men are overrepresented in cases where children suffer very severe forms of child abuse, even lethal forms. And I think a lot of us see stories in the popular media talking about young fathers who've done great injury to their children. But no, that's not the reason either. And in fact, I would say if we're really worried about the risks that men could bring to families, some men, just as some women, are going to bring risks to the table. But it's our responsibility, I believe, as social workers to get in there and assess what's going on with that family so that we can intervene to address those risks and to also prop up all the positive things that men are doing, because most men are doing positive things for their families. Most men are really invested. So what the heck? I'm up here telling you not to work with fathers, and I just made arguments in the other direction. So I'm going to stop here for a moment. I'm going to tell you about my own dad, my own experience. So 20 years ago or so, I had never really thought about men as parents. When I heard parent, I actually heard mom. And my mom was the one that was doing what I think of as the heavy lifting of parenting. She was doing the bathing, the feeding, the shuttling to medical appointments, the cleaning up the vomit at 3 a.m. that I so understand now that I'm a parent of my own 2 4-year-old twin boys. But that wasn't my dad. He wasn't in that. He was the guy who took me out for ice cream the evening before the school year started. He was the guy who taught me to do a 32-point inspection on my first car and tell a really dirty joke with excellent timing. That was my dad. But the heavy lifting of parenting, that was in my mom's wheelhouse. And frankly, when I went back to school to get my master's in social work, that idea that moms are the 100% parent and the dad is the co-parent, the co-pilot, the sometimes there guy was reinforced. Even though my specialty was in child and family services, we really should have called it mom and baby services because we didn't talk about men. And if we did, it was generally talking about whether they were missing, whether or not they were important, and what risks they brought to the table. And that's how we've built social work services largely for men. Today, you will have the central core business of child and family services that are built around the needs of moms and their children. And then there's like this sort of dad guy on the side. He'll come in and he'll work with the dad if dad's around. He'll do a special group. There'll be a dad and child day that coincidentally every year happens to fall in the month of June. And it's on the side. It's a separate parenting group. It's adjunctive to everything else. So we have built a service system that's for moms and babies over here and fathers over there. And 20 years ago, the notion that we're going to serve fathers at all was really exciting. It was a little bit groundbreaking. And so all of these dad's side adjunct programs sort of grew up in schools, in juvenile justice systems, centers, clinics. And people really connected the idea of doing something for fathers. We should be working with fathers in some sort of way. But it's always been on the side. So am I saying moms and dads should be served in the exact same way? No, absolutely not. Am I saying we shouldn't have special groups for dads or we shouldn't make special efforts to bring them in? No, I'm not saying that at all. But men aren't really getting the opportunity to have the supports the core business of child and family services should be providing. And as one father once told me in a qualitative interview, we're not aliens. We're parents. We want to know how to take care of our children, how to protect them, how to help them do well in school. They're really interested in the same things that mom are interested in. And I think defaulting to moms as the parent, the 100% parent, is doing a huge disservice to mothers. We are overburdening them with the responsibility, and we're not giving dads the opportunity to step up to the plate, and we're giving them the message that they are on the side. The other thing that this really does, by creating mom and child services over here and dad services over there, is reinforcing this narrative that families are forged by a mother, a father, and a biological and romantically based relationship. And that is doing a huge disservice to families that don't fit that dominant narrative, to same-sex parents, to multi-generational parents. So by serving moms and children over here and dads over there, we're missing out on a lot of opportunities to serve families. So moms and dads can have unique needs that organizations should recognize, but we can bring fathers to the center of services, I'm finding from my research, with some pretty simple practices. Asking families, who are the important caregivers in your life? Who do you want to bring to the table? Who are the folks that are raising the kids in your home? And constructing services, opportunities, assessments that allow for that complexity. Early on in my career as a researcher, I had been a practitioner working with fathers in the field, and I was a very bright-eyed, bushy-tailed doctoral student at Columbia University, and I said, I really want to move interventions forward for fathers. I don't really see an evidence base out there. And I had a lot of mentors come back at me, a lot of reviewers of my journal articles, a lot of grants that came back with comments that had embedded in them this narrative that actually, why are you working with fathers? They're not around. You're going to have a really hard time recruiting them into your studies. It's going to take forever. You're not going to get tenure. So not only are fathers missing and unimportant and potentially dangerous, I'm not going to get tenure because I'm working with them. And that's not been true at all. I am so excited about this field. And I think as researchers, we have a real responsibility to bring dads to the center of services and allow for all of these other complex parenting and family arrangements. I don't think we can get away with just studying mothers or just studying fathers. So what I'm asking you to think about today, to consider as you're having conversations with your students, as you're looking at your own research, please stop serving fathers and start serving families.